overhead, grateful for the clear night, although clear meant the temperature had dropped. She shivered a little and snuggled deeper into the sleeping bag. It would be nice to be able to regulate her body temperature in the way she knew Carpathians did. There were things she could almost do in the way Carpathians could, but unfortunately, regulating temperature was not one of them. Carpathians were a species of people nearly immortal who fed on the blood of others but could not kill while feeding or they would become vampire. They slept in the rejuvenating soil and could not be out during the day, but they had tremendous gifts, powers that allowed them to shift shape and become what they willed. Elisabetta was fully Carpathian, and she came from a very powerful bloodline, yet she had been taken at a young age, given up for dead, and lived her life at the whim of her captor. That just proved to Julija that she had to be more careful than ever. If someone as strong as a Carpathian could be overcome, then so could she. She didn't live in a cage in the way Elisabetta had, but in a sense she was just as much a prisoner as her friend had been, and would probably always be. One couldn't take centuries of conditioning and throw it away because they were free. It didn't work that way. Julija had broken away from her family and friends because what they were planning and doing was wrong. She knew it was wrong in every way, but so did they. They just didn't care. Now she had no one and nowhere to go, just like Elisabetta. Freedom didn't always mean free. A star shot across the sky and fell toward Earth, glowing as it raced in a spectacular explosion of glory. The beauty of nature always took her breath, but no matter how stunning or amazing her surroundings, she was still alone with no one to share them with. No matter how right she was, morally or otherwise, she was still alone. Elisabetta, at least, had been left with strangers, but they would all look out for her. It wouldn't be the same as having someone she loved close, but there were people who cared. Elisabetta had a brother she hadn't seen since she was a young woman and wouldn't recognize after all the years, but at least he would want to take care of her. Julija had 2 brothers, but they wanted to kill her. More, they would come after her. Most likely, they were already on her trail. They would kill her if they caught up with her, and they weren't alone. She closed her eyes on the stunning sight overhead, trying to force herself to fall asleep. She loved the night and spent most of it awake as a rule, until she'd found Elisabetta and eventually was surrounded by Carpathians. She sighed and turned on her side restlessly. Clearly, word hadn't yet filtered down to those living in the United States that she was an enemy of the Carpathian people. She had desperately wanted to help Elisabetta through the coming months, when she would most need a friend, but she'd run across her while searching for the book, and although she'd been instrumental in freeing her, she couldn't stay. She knew sooner or later word would reach the Carpathians in the United States that she was an enemy. She didn't want to be taken prisoner herself, and the Carpathians were powerful, probably every bit as powerful as she was. Julija touched the scar running along her throat. Her voice had been forever changed, but at least she had one. She knew, although thankfully no one else did, that her throat had been specifically targeted for a reason. Sergei, the man who had captured Elisabetta so long ago, was well aware of Julija's potential, and he hoped to kill her or keep her from her destiny. Neither scenario sounded good to her. She was the mistress of her own fate. She made up her mind and followed her own rules. She had done so ever since she had made the decision to split from her family and warn the prince of the Carpathian people what was being planned behind his back. She'd been too late. Things had already been set in motion by the time she realized the ultimate goal, and now here she was, in the race of a lifetime. She accepted that she might not come out of it alive, but she refused to accept defeat. She couldn't lose. There was too much at stake, too many lives depending on her completing her task, perhaps an entire species of people. Overhead, the stars stared back at her. A long sweep of what looked like stardust left a comet-like trail through the brightest stars. It was wide and curved gracefully through the night.